Okay, what if one of the most famous prophecies in the entire Bible wasn't actually about the ancient world, but about a modern city we all know? Today, we're diving into a really compelling argument that the mysterious Babylon the Great isn't some relic of the past, but a global superpower of the present. Let's get right into it.
So, the whole mystery comes from the book of Revelation, and it's all about identifying this place called Babylon the Great. For centuries, theologians and scholars have been debating its location, treating it like this huge, unsolved puzzle that's just hidden away in Scripture.
So here's the thing. Babylon the Great isn't just a pin on a map. In Revelation, it's this massive symbol for the absolute peak of human power, commerce, and, well, moral decay. We're talking about a city with incredible global influence, but one that's also prophesied to have a truly catastrophic end.
Now, for a long, long time, a leading theory has pointed right at the Vatican. And that's mainly because of a verse that mentions 7 hills. But the source we're digging into today says, whoa, hold on. It argues that focusing on that one single clue is way too narrow. It suggests that if you look at all the prophecies together, a very, very different picture starts to take shape. So let's do this. Let's approach this like detectives, okay? The source lays out a really specific checklist of descriptions for this modern-day Babylon. We're going to go through them one by one and see what kind of profile we can build.
All right, first up, we have the geographic and political clues. The prophecies supposedly describe a nation that is the world's single superpower. It's a country that sits on many waters, it has a massive seaport, it's home to a world government, and, get this, its mother nation is symbolized by a lion. Pretty specific, right?
And then we have the symbolic and cultural clues. This nation is referred to as a lady, and even has a lady as a key national symbol. It's also described as being both the most envied and the most hated nation on the globe. The prophecies also mention it's a nation that pollutes and, quote, destroys her own land. And then there's this last one, which is just wild. It has a town named Babylon somewhere inside its borders.
Okay, so with all these clues on the table, everything from its global power status all the way down to a specific town's name, the real question is there any city in the world today that could possibly tick every single one of these boxes? And this brings us right to the core argument of our source material. We're about to connect these ancient clues to a very modern-day metropolis, piece by piece, and build the case against our prime suspect. So what's the answer? Well, according to this source, the one and only city that fits every single one of these prophetic descriptions is none other than New York City, right in the United States of America. Let's just map this out for a second. The lone superpower, that's the USA. Sits on many waters? Well, that points to the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and more specifically, New York Harbor. That very harbor is the huge seaport. The world government, that's the UN headquarters right there in NYC. The mother nation with the lion symbol, that'll be the United Kingdom. And yeah, believe it or not, there really is a town called Babylon in Long Island, New York. It all seems to fit. But the argument doesn't just stop with geography. Oh no, the source goes way deeper, examining the iconic symbols and the incredible concentration of financial power that's centered right in New York City. The source really hones in on this verse from the book of Isaiah. It describes this powerful entity personified as a woman, one who proudly says, "I shall be a lady forever." And where does the source connect this prophecy of a lady? Directly to one of the most famous symbols in the entire world, a symbol of both New York and America, the Statue of Liberty, or as we all know her, Lady Liberty. Now this is where it gets really interesting. The source then lays out this fascinating, almost unbelievable lineage for the statue. It claims the sculptor was originally commissioned to build a statue of the Egyptian goddess Isis. This goddess, the argument goes, was known to the Babylonians as Ishtar, who was later renamed Libertas by the Romans, and ultimately became America's Lady Liberty. And the argument gets even more provocative from here. The source directly connects Ishtar's identity as a goddess of fertility and sex to the Bible's infamous Whore of Babylon, suggesting the prophets were actually making a reference to this specific pagan deity all along. But beyond all the symbolism, the source points to New York's actual tangible power. I mean, it's home to the United Nations, which makes it a political hub. With the Federal Reserve System, it's an undeniable financial powerhouse. And as a center for global merchants, it is the beating heart of commercial power. The source also claims that the prophecies go on to describe the nation's character itself.
It points to America as a mixing pot of peoples from all over the world. It alleges the nation pollutes and literally destroys its own land, that it boasts of its military might, believing it can never be conquered. And in a really controversial point, the source suggests that events like 9/11 are a fulfillment of a prophecy about self-inflicted wounds. So after laying out all this evidence, from geography and politics to symbols and national character, the source material arrives at its firm and, frankly, pretty startling conclusion. The author is absolutely convinced. The conclusion is that New York City isn't just a possible candidate, it's the only city on the entire planet that aligns perfectly with every single tiny detail of the biblical prophecies about Babylon the Great. And this verse from Revelation really captures the whole essence of the argument. It highlights that the identity of Babylon was always meant to be a mystery, something that requires some serious interpretation to really understand. And, that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Whether you agree with this interpretation or not, what does it mean when ancient texts seem to mirror our modern world with such surprising and specific detail? That is definitely something to think about.